James, will you share your full Revert story with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got to go back in context of where I came from up to that. So when you start switching over, it's like, how can that happen, sort of thing. So are you okay if I go back that far? And
Yes.
okay, I won't hit the hour mark, but set a new record for you. But so in watching the World Trade Centers fall, had no idea what Islam was. Growing up in a small town in the middle of Nevada, finally just ended up seeing hostility. Start learning from the news what Islam was, and of course from there is like, oh yeah, we're at war against all Muslims, which was pretty common during that time in 2001 to and later. Anyway, so I grew up hating Muslims and Islam, and then get to about 2008, I ended up joining the Marine Corps, and infantry, and somehow I didn't go to the Middle East. I don't know how that happened, but something just kept cutting me short every single time with timing, workups, Obama pulling us out of Afghanistan. Like, it was just last second of everything when my unit was supposed to. It never happened. So anyways, 2008, I joined the Marine Corps in the infantry, and about, I want to say like a year into it, I started to still had hatred towards Muslims. And I think it was in 2009 or 2010, um, it was quite common to have the kafir symbol. If you ever go into military surplus stores, you'll find the stickers, written in Arabic all over the place. Like that was my symbol. I had that everywhere. Like I used to ride a Harley. I didn't have a car. All I had was a Harley. Had this huge patch on the back written in Arabic that said kafir, and then on the top in English it would say, on top of the patch it say infidel across the top. Like I hated them. And then I had a Nazi helmet that had the SS bolts on the side. I took those off and put the Arabic kafir on the side. Like I hated Muslims, hated Islam, everything to do with it. It was like, and and it was normal. That was a normal thing. Like for people, being around people where I was and elsewhere, we hated it. And then, uh, let's see. Oh yeah, I don't know if you could see it or not, but I got kafir tattooed on my chest. Like, it's not on the forehead, so don't have to worry about me being Dajjal, but yeah, it's here. Like, I really hated Muslims and Islam so much. Well, I think it was like 2012, of hating Islam, Muslims, everything, just waiting to go do some killing over in the Middle East, bring their numbers down, mowing the grass, whatever you want to call it. That type of mentality. And then never happened, which I'm pretty happy about now. I'd feel so bad, but in 2012, let me go back, probably about 2011, we're doing some workups. We're getting ready to go do a float over to Southeast Asia, some partnership training, some deterrence against China, and it's just floating. That's what we call as a float. You get on a ship, you go bounce around different countries, strengthening your partnership with other countries in the area. Anyways, and by the way, I've met other Marines with that same tattoo. We didn't plan it. We just started seeing them on people's chests. It was like American History X, where he's got the swastika on his chest, but we don't. We get kafir because that's our new enemy sort of idea. It was so much hatred, and then yeah, it was pretty funny. You take your shirt off and you walk around. There's a few other people with the kafir on their chest. I'm like, yeah, I know where you got that idea, but we're not upset with people with different skin colors. There's those with a different religion that we don't like. And then 2011, we start doing some workups. Back to that, sorry. 2011, we're doing some workups, and then we go. I remember, like, we would train in these mount towns. Mount towns. It's what is it? Urban terrain, military operations and urban terrain. MOUT. Well, they would build these like container towns. You know, containers stacked on top, windows in them, doors in them. You go in, kick in a door, practice taking somebody out, setting up a perimeter, raiding the buildings. And when we would come down to these towns out of the hills, they had these huge speakers they'd set up, and they'd play the adhan just to get us like prepped for this stuff. And so as we're walking down, I have no idea what the words are. I'm thinking like, you know, the infidels and non-believers, you know, this sort of thing. Take whoever hostage, and you know, the whole perspective that I had on him. And so every time I'm just walking down, just getting angry, like, yeah, you know what? The way you train is the way you're going to end up. Uh, how you train is how you fight. So it was like trying to constantly get in the mindset for it every time we walk into these towns, makeshift towns. It was, anyways, playing the adhan. I had no idea what was being said, and then finally get to like a year later. And by the way, we'd screw up, do something, get back. And so we'd go over, listen to the adhan every single time. We're getting pissed off. It's 120 degrees, got all this weight on, and then we keep listening to the adhan the whole time, which is like making it worse. And so, anyways, it was like 2 years later, somebody translated, goes, hey, do you know what the adhan is? Or I said a comment, I was like, man, this, you know, dang thing or whatever, again, like, can't believe I'm hearing that. And it was like, you know what's being said? And I looked at him, I was like, no. He goes, and he translated it. And I was like, waiting for the kill infidel part to come in, you know, that I've been prepping for years. And then I find out it's not in there. So I'm like, okay, now what? And then that was like the start of the wall that I had put up of hatred towards Islam, just started like cracking, if you could describe that. It starts cracking, it starts crumbling. And over the years, it took a while, but it started crumbling. I started, you know, getting rid of certain stuff. There was, you know, anti-Islamic that I had kept, and you know, it's oh man. And then finally, once the wall was pretty much all gone, almost completely gone. I'm a trucker, and saw somebody that broke down at an entranceway to a place I needed to go to. And I could have went around, but I was like, you know what, man, I feel like I need to stop and help this person. So I stop and I help him, and it's another white guy, and he has a little funny accent, like whatever, you know, these Eastern Europeans or whatever. And I follow him to a place, we fix his truck, get the parts, got all the tools, saved him some money, and then I was like, oh, you know, it's thought he was just another Christian or whatever. He goes, no, I'm Muslim. I said, where are you from? No way you're Muslim. And he goes, yeah. I said, well, where are you from? He said, Bosnia. I said, okay. And so after talking to him, you know, we call and chat and whatever, and we find out similarities. I came from the LDS religion, the Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. And so anyways, like I was very much into that, like deep into it. Anyways, so now I'm talking about similarities between between the LDS religion and Islam. I'm like, man, we have so much in common. But he asked me one question. He's like, who is God and who do you worship? And this is where it's a little bit different, because LDS believe Jesus and the one who's called the Father and the Spirit, the three separate beings. Like, they are not even the same. Like, they are actually three separate. So they'll tell you, oh yeah, you know, some of them will say, yes, we worship Jesus. But then they say, no, we don't. It's through divine investiture that, you know, that you worship him, but it's not actually him, it's the Father, because they're not the same. He just represents him. And I'm just like, but it never felt comfortable, because you could never really get that answer. Nobody really knew that. But in Islam, it was just simple. And so I was like, okay, was starting to feel drawn towards Islam, but then that's when I ended up praying, and I was like, look, the first and greatest commandment is to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, might, mind, and soul. And I'm like, I don't know who you are. I don't even know what I'm worshiping, who it is I'm worshiping. And just this vacuum of like emptiness just hit me, and I had like barely any peace at the time, and it was gone. I had no peace, and it was very dark. And then the crazy part is I was ready to change because I was, struggling with a lot of stress and stuff. What I mean is change is like I was ready to change my life, like religion if needed, because I was at such a low point. But when I prayed and I was like, I don't know who you are. Like I know you exist, but I don't know who you are. And that's when all of my peace just disappeared, which just should be the opposite. I should be filled with peace. I had no peace. I was like, what is going on here? And for days I was just like empty. But every time I ended up thinking about Islam, I had peace.
Mm.
No other way did I have peace. It was only with Islam. And so here I am, like doing these prayers in my basement. It was causing a lot of conflict. What are you doing? This is not a religion. Why are you doing this? Sort of thing. And it was like, you're bringing Satan into this house, sort of, doing the seances or whatever. It's like when you don't understand it, it's like that's all you can see until you do. But so, anyways, I had a lot of hostility and problems and finally, but it was only I was desperate for peace, and it was the only way I was finding peace was through Islam. And finally, I said, okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and start going to the mosque. And the thing is like I was going to the LDS temple like every Wednesday. Every Wednesday I was going to the LDS temple, and I've been doing that for like a whole year. And I understood everything, dove into all the doctrine of LDS, and everything was pointing me towards Islam in the end. And I'm like, it's it was almost like a stepping stone between Christianity and Islam. Like it was placed there to make it easier for Christians to revert over. It's like if you had a 5-foot gap to step to Islam, the LDS religion was there, and it made it 2 feet, 2.5 feet plus another 2.5 feet, because it was solely going through the transition that all the glory goes to the Most High. There is none of us to Jesus, none of us to Spirit. Peace be upon all of them. You see what I'm saying? And so it was like, I definitely had like some, spiritual experiences, heartwarming experience in the LDS religion. So I can't say that like he's, the Most High is absent in that. Besides, this is his world. Nothing happens without his permission, anyways. He guides people to and from religion. And so I'm seeing all this, and I'm like, well, I can't deny all of my experiences I had in the religion, but everything in the religion is pointing me towards Islam in the end. So I'm like, okay, so I'm not violating anything. It's just becoming more clear, and it's getting to the end points. And I'm like, okay, so then I started, stop going to the temple. And I remember I come walking out of the temple, I had my kufi on, because by then I was pretty much like, LDS religion with a kufi. And I remember the last day I was walking out with my wife, the guy goes, what? They don't let Muslims in here? He's like, what? You can't be in here. Like, I was already in the back past the check-in desk. He's like, they don't let Muslims in here. And I was like, well, and I wanted to talk to him, but he's already getting hostile, which I didn't want. It's not a place you should be doing anyways, getting hostility. I was going to tell him, like, this is my last time here, because I was trying to come for clarity and I'm not getting it. And then we'd go over to the mosque. She'd stay in the car and I'd go inside. I'm like, this actually feels like home. Like, this feels like peace. And I'm like, okay, so obviously, and I've seen the LDS religion change people's lives. Like, I like the standards. But when you look at the standards, those are the standards of Islam, but on such a smaller scale. Like, we have more standards to live by to even become more disciplined. More like you just see. Anyways, everything was just pointing me towards Islam. That was the next step. So I was like, okay. So I just dove into Islam, and that's when I started realizing, like, this lifestyle is the exact same lifestyle you'll find in the Old Testament and the New Testament. If you put the both together, you'll see it. And so once I saw that, I finally realized, like, this is his character. This is how he is. Like, we don't deny, yes, go and massacre a bunch of people. Like, he calls for that sometimes. Christians could never do that. Muslims can. We don't like it, Jews can, but then they get exiled for a while because they pick up all the statues on the way and start worshiping them. You see what I'm saying? And so it's like, this just felt like home. This felt like I knew who my God was. Like this, it was so clear. And once I realized that, I'm like, but the thing is, like, there's so much to it that it just felt right. And I don't know how many times I take my kufi, I'd rip it off. I'm pissed off because I'm sorry, I'm upset because I found something that I didn't like. But then when I started diving into the context, driving into other things, and I start realizing, like, that is the best way. If I ever had to have a group of people, and this is exactly how I'd end up doing it. So now I'm even more convinced of Islam, being the right way. And anyways, but it was like a slow transition, and towards the end, I'd rip my kufi off because I'm upset I learned something, but then I put it back on with pride because I got through all that hardship trying to understand that one little part. And then, next time you rip it off because this is just can't be right. But then it's like you get convinced, and now you're even a stronger believer than you were before all that, and keep going back and forth between ripping the kufi off and putting it back on, and every time it's just like, and now it's like, okay, how do I convince my friends or people, if we were to debate anything, that this is the correct way to go? Like, this is the correct way. It's when people say, oh, well, Jesus never did that. I'm like, dude, he's going to be killing people when he comes back as a ruling over the earth. Like, he's going to be chopping heads off, and he's going to be sitting there watching it happen in front of him, and he's going to be commanding it. I'm like, dude, that's literally jihad. When you come in, take over an area, you have to establish a rule. Like, that's exactly what I'm like. He's more like Muslims. And I'm looking at him preaching stuff, and I'm like, this is just. So, anyways, every day I try to leave Islam, and I just keep getting pulled back into it, more convinced, and it's like, did I forget anything? Like, I'm trying to check off all of the stuff that it won't hit me later. Like, I'm trying to make sure I get everything figured out, so later on, if you ever hear it, like when the Trinity comes up and someone says it just doesn't make sense. Well, if you started with the Trinity and then built off of that, then they'd have a little better foundation, or they would have moved on before. That's what I'm trying to do with Islam, so I don't lose anything. But outside of that, like, it's sad. I have not told my dad, but he knows, because I make videos and put them up to, like, try to defend Islam, or the good side of it. And out of respect, like, I don't wear my goofy around him because it makes him, I don't want him to feel like he failed as a father, but he knows I'm Muslim. And so out of that, but my mom, I already told her. My wife, she knows, and we've had our discussions with about everybody. But if I I don't have to be around my dad all the time, but I do have to call and talk to him a lot. And I try to encourage him with whatever it is that he believes, because I don't want him to give up on faith. Because the last thing I want is someone to become an atheist, and that's absolutely. I'm like, even if you have a little bit of something, it's better than having nothing. And so I'm just like, and they're being guided towards. So it's like, whatever, tell me all these nice experiences that change people's life, getting them off of drugs, drinking, getting them to stop using, addictive substances, which is in line with Islam. They're moving towards it. That's not Christianity, but it is an LDS. So it's like a stepping stone for Islam. Anyways, but let's see, my friends, I've lost a lot of them from the not LDS, more of the Marine Corps. It's not as close as it was before. Occasionally, I still get a few phone calls, but it was never like before, because, it's. But on Sundays, my wife and my kids, they're still LDS. So I go to church with them, because we got 6 kids, and it's real hard to manage 6 kids, little kids. So I go there as support to help her and my kids. And anyways, they're already still learning parts of Islam. if that makes sense. But one day as they get older, they're going to end up asking, Dad, why don't you, eat the bread and drink the water? It's like, well, like those questions are coming. And, but I want them to be older. I want them to check all the boxes off with the LDS religion. And then later on, when they start asking those questions, it'll come out as why I believe what I believe. But they're already anyone that's practicing a religion is on their way towards Islam that I can see it, if that makes sense, because they're getting a piece of Islam. And the only thing they can do is just get a bigger piece of Islam until pretty soon they're like, yeah, Islam was the answer in the end. I'm like, well, of course, you've slowly been working your way that way. They sugarcoat everything, and it's like, just take the sugar off and just swallow the pill, would you? It's harsh, but that's exactly what Islam is. Anyways, but as of right now, everyone in my family knows we really don't discuss religion because a lot of my siblings are anti-religion. And oh yeah, I didn't talk about this, but like I grew up with my mother who would speak to like the other side, what we would call it. We call them jinn or whatever. But like you allow them to possess your bodies to like draw pictures and stuff. As a kid, and so you actually allow them to do that, and then you start having problems later on with possession or whatever you want to call it. That it's like, because you've been playing with that and not even realizing it. So I've seen that. It's man, yeah. But in the end, I've found Islam. It makes sense. I try to leave Islam every day, and yet I'm still, after getting my answers and studying things, I get a stronger believer afterwards.